Another season of twists, turns, shocking, and spicy surprises. Child, I cannot take this at all, but I am here for it. Whew. Let's get into this recap. To be honest, going into this season, I had very high expectations because the mess and drama is always up to par with this show. And baby, I can't lie, with these first 4 episodes, I haven't been let down yet. Granted, there isn't much drama, but the tricks, turns, and shocking plays is amazing and added on some pizzazz to this season. Now, I do feel like we should have gotten more catfish players, but I get that everyone wants to play themselves because it's safer, but boring. Anyways, getting into the show, the first drop of players was Frank, Yulene, Alyssa, Carissa, and Josh, aka Brew, who were all playing themselves, while John and Parker were playing as catfish. John playing his mom, Carol, and Parker playing her dad, Paul. I felt like when we got introduced to everyone, they were all happy and jolly, as they should have been, but I didn't get any strategic vibes from anyone other than John, who was playing his mom, Carol. Like, I barely see any of them taking notes, so I'm like, oh Lord, this is no fun already. And off rip, I knew something tricky was going to happen because there were only 7 players in the game and not the full 8. So that was suspect and important to take note of. So of course, once everyone was in the game, they were in the chat talking and trying to get to know each other, show their personalities, and fill people out. And everyone was doing good, holding themselves down, except Parker, who was playing her dad, Paul. And it's crazy because the moment she did her introduction on the show, I felt like she should have went in the game as herself because she would have blended in with the others and connected with them well. But of course, that was my opinion. So I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt and expected her to play a good catfishing game. But man, oh man, she was all the way out of her element. Like, it was so bad, sad, and honestly quite pathetic. To the point I was starting to question if Paul was her real dad or her sugar dad, because it was as if she didn't have a connection with the person she was playing. And from the beginning, she was in a bad position, being that she created her dad's profile in a creepy light that made him seem so out of place. Granted, the show is for any and everyone. That's what makes it so entertaining. But the way she made her dad look was very off-putting, and he didn't come off as someone people could relate to and would come to for conversations. So every time she did say something in the chat, she kept digging herself in a deeper and deeper hole. And I knew she was going to be the first person going home because it literally made the most sense. Rather, the influencers was playing strategically or with their heart. She had to go. I literally have secondhand embarrassment for Parker and her dad because my girl was a little off. First, she didn't know what a memoir was, which is crazy. Like, how are you playing a 50-something-year-old man that is a marriage therapist and don't know what a memoir is? My God, girl. Even when they played their first circle game, she was the only one that did bad, continuously making herself look suspect and out of place, like I said. And when she kept talking in the chat, all I was saying to myself is, Parker is slow. She needs to be in school and not on this show because clearly she's been too busy partying and not picking up a damn book. It was just so cringe watching how terrible she was playing. Like, my blood was literally boiling because what a waste. But I mean, it's good TV. Now, as far as the ratings went, I was actually shocked that a lot of people put Frank in first place because it didn't seem like he was that active in the first episode. Granted, based off of his profile, he seems fun, like the person everyone wanted to be cool with. But as far as the chat goes, I personally feel like I didn't get much of him. But then again, we are watching only a few of the circle chats, so maybe all of his parts didn't make the cut. But I was happy he did become an influencer because I am Team Frank. I was also happy John became an influencer because he was playing a good catfishing game, and he isn't looking like a suspect. And clearly, he is playing so well that he was placed as an influencer. So that says a lot. Now, it was surprisingly shocking to me that Yulene wasn't in the top 3 and was actually in the bottom with Parker. That threw me for a loop because it seemed like she was connecting with people in the group chat. But clearly, there were some things I was missing because everyone was saying she started on a high and dropped to a low. But that's the game, baby. You gotta keep up. Now, with Frank being the top influencer, he was able to bring in, the 8th player. And I'm over here like, finally. But clearly, they were trying to switch it up this season by not dropping all 8 at the same time, but having the 8th player come in after the ratings. But anyway, there was 2 guys on the screen for Frank to choose, and I thought he was going to go with the guy Trey because he was talking about how they need to spice things up in the chat and Trey looked good. But he really ended up going with the nerdy looking guy Jared. But it didn't matter who he chose because both of the profiles were catfish and being played by Scary Spice and Baby Spice from the Spice Girls. Now don't judge me, y'all, but when I seen them walking in, I was like, who are these ladies in this doll? What's going on here? OMG, I should be so embarrassed saying this right now, but I never really knew the Spice Girls' face. Granted, I know Mel B and I've always seen her face, but I never was invested in her to connect her to the Spice Girls. Like, they aren't who I grew up on. Yes, I know 1 or 2 of their songs, but that's about it. So like I said, don't judge me. So anywho, I think it's fun seeing them play in this game because you can tell that they are big fans of the show. And I think it is always entertaining to see 2 people go into a game together as one profile because their commentary with each other is always funny. And it's so many different ideas floating out, so it can either help or hinder them. But everyone that's been a player on the show talks about how it feels different and move fast once you are in it. And baby, Mel B and Emma was really going through it when they got started. But nonetheless, they got the hang of it and they were a great addition to the season and entertaining as hell. I also love how they weren't playing to win the money, but they were playing to actually be an asset to the players or awarding them more money. But of course, with a twist. Side note, I think for one of the seasons, they should have it to where each profile is played by 2 people and they should have another season where all the players are catfish. I think that would be so entertaining. I really do. But anyway, moving on in the show, it was a new day with the new players. So a new game was being played, which was the game Take Me As I Am, which has been played on a show before, and I've always found the game to be a good one because the players are always able to get so much information about each other through how the cake is decorated, especially the catfish players. Like, who knew that's all it took to scope someone out? So with that being said, some people, well, really, Alyssa, felt like Carol was a catfish because of her cake. Now, even though the Carol profile is a catfish, I was actually mad that Alyssa noticed that. And I think I was only upset because she used the excuse of, oh, Carol says she loves to bake in her profile. But girl, baking and decorating is 2 different things. So I got offended because I too love to bake. But when it's time to decorate, child, you'll think a child made the cake. But at least it tastes good. But once I really sat with it, I was happy that Alyssa did peep that because that means she's paying attention. But I don't really care for her because she's overly plain in my opinion. Like, girl, okay, we get it. Calm down. Now, I've already brought up how I assumed that Parker was going to be the first person to get kicked out of the game. And my guess ended up being true when John and Frank got her out. But what got me is that Parker was crying before she even found out she got the boot. Which is very telling, being that she had started 2 private chats. One was with Brew and Frank, where she was, buttering Frank up and he was feeling it. But Brew, on the other hand, baby saw right through everything she was saying, what he was saying. But because Frank was feeling her, I didn't think he would get rid of her. She also started a private chat with Carol, but that wasn't a good idea either because John was reading right through her and it was not working in her favor at all. And he was an influencer just like Frank. So of course, that rolled over to the VIP chat. So the fact that she did all that work and still went home was not surprising. And I didn't feel bad for her at all because she clearly was ill prepared. So I have no sympathy. Bye. Let me just also say that I need Frank to step his strategic game up because he was talking about letting Mama Carol help him dictate the game. And that's a no-no, especially when him and Mama Carol don't have a solidified bond. Once he knew he was an influencer, he should have been thinking, plotting, and planning, but I'm gonna let this one time slide. Now, all of this is happening in the second episode, and by now I feel like I am rooting for Brew because he was doing a good job connecting with people. I also like Frank, Carissa, and the idea of Jared, even though he is being played by the Spice Girls. And what ended up happening is Frank, Jared, and Carissa ended up forming an alliance, and I was actually here for that. I also like John, who is playing his mom, Carol. So those are like, my top 5. Speaking of Carol, once Parker got the boot, she decided to see Carol and found out that, he was a catfish. She was a catfish. He, she, it. But what got me in their conversation was that Parker was shocked that John knew real important key facts about his mom, which just proves to me she don't know damn near nothing about her dad. And she probably the type of child that only cares about what her dad do for her, because why would someone knowing a simple detail about their parents is such a shocking thing to you? Like, girl, what? Now, I could be wrong and she and her dad could, really be close, but she just did not sell it to me at all. But of course, once she found out that Carol's profile was a catfish, she decided to try and oust John to the group with her video message by saying, like, don't trust who you talk to or whatever. Like, girl, bye, pack it up and go. So of course, by her saying that, everyone was lurking and skeptical as they should be. But like I always say, I don't think catfish should be, like a major factor in anyone's gameplay, because that is literally a non-factor if we're being honest, especially if they are not hurting your game and freaking helping it. So all eyes was on Carol since that's who Parker went to see, and John admitted to that. And I think people have their eyes out for Carol, but they weren't really on her neck. Well, no. Someone was, and that person was Alyssa, who tries to throw shade and call out Carol, which I thought was dumb because they were on good terms and John literally had Alyssa's back when it was time for voting, and literally said, she was the first person he said, I do not want her gone. So that just wasn't smart of her. And what was funny to me was while she was trying to call Carol out in the chat, she messed around and screwed with her own game because people didn't like how evil, she was, how she came off. And I agree with their thoughts because even if you are skeptical of a person, your game should be way better than to out your thoughts in a group chat. Like, girl, move your thoughts to a private conversation with someone else. She literally formed an alliance with Elaine and Rue, so she should have expressed her feelings to them. And while I'm on the topic of Alyssa, I want to say how I feel like she came into the game hoping her occupation would help build bonds because, people would talk to her and tell her their sexual secrets. And it's like the only thing she wanted people to ask her. Like, girl, okay, once you know, it's old news. Moving on in the show, we get introduced to Rachel and Alex. Now, I don't know how I feel about Rachel because she's walking around the place doing something she calls witch oil. Like, baby, you should have left that at home. And Alex was coming in as a catfish named Nathan. Now, Alex had me sold when he was introduced into the game, but as soon as he started playing the game, this man forgot he was a catfish. So I'm like, oh Lord, is he gonna make it? But it was funny. So when Rachel and Nathan was introduced to the players, they were also told that they could choose 2 players to have a private chat with. So Rachel chose Jared and Elaine, which to be honest was a good choice. And that conversation was going well. But at one point, Jared got stuck on the topic they were on because he was taking too long to respond back. And that's the only downfall when 2 personalities are playing under one profile. They go back and forth on what to say, which wastes time and looks suspect. So it went from good to, I don't think I can fully trust you, Jared. So yeah. Now Nathan, on the other hand, chose Frank and Rue, and I actually liked his choice as well. And they chat went good too. Nathan just went in asking for information about what's been happening in the game. So that was that. But them being two new players wasn't even the juice. So in episode 3, Baby and Scary Spice made a video telling the players that they have been playing under a catfish profile and they must figure out who it is. Talk about tricky. Being that the players didn't know the secret and new twists in the game, they were all expressing, the things they knew about the Spice Girls and just reliving the times and things when they listened to the group. But they didn't know how it would backfire on them later in the game. Now, what caught my attention when they were talking in the chat was John had Kara write in the group chat that it took her back to the times right before she had kids. Now, if I would have seen that, I would have been like, alert, alert, alert. Because I would have been calculating her age and the time the Spice Girls got popping. And if the numbers wasn't looking right, I would have known or heavily expected that Kara was a catfish. But surprisingly, that didn't raise any red flags to anyone but the actual Spice Girls. I found that so crazy. So when it got time for them to vote, baby, everyone was in shambles and so confused. And Mel B and Emma had to do what they had to do to get the target off of their backs so no one would suspect Jared to be them. And they were doing a good job, but there were some people that, they couldn't break. So the thing is, they have to fool the majority of the players. So they need 5 votes that are not towards Jared. So Rue chose Rachel, which makes sense because she seemed to know so much about the Spice Girls, so everyone was assuming it was her. At least some people assumed it was her. Alyssa voted for Jared, and that was expected. Carol voted for Nathan, which was random, but Carol is also playing it safe. Nathan chose Rachel too, which was crazy because they went into the game together, so you would think they would, would have built an alliance or at least tried speaking to each other, but they missed that mark. Krista chose Carol, which was shocking and random, but okay. Frank chose Jared, which was the most shocking of all to me because he was the one to bring Jared to the game. But it also showed me that Frank is attentive and peeped what's going on. And the last vote was Rachel. And they didn't show it, but I feel like Rachel chose Jared because she already didn't trust him, so it made sense. But also Mel B and Emma was persuading her to think otherwise. But I don't know. I can't wait for the next few episodes to drop next week because, baby, I am glued to my TV waiting for the next big move to be made in the twist in the game. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed my recap. And if you have thoughts, you already know what to do. Like this video and show your girl some love. Comment your thoughts and let's discuss what you thought of these first 4 episodes of season 4 and where you think things are heading. And last but certainly not least, subscribe and join the community, baby. Bye.